Great. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for yet another Tuesdays with Tony and Randy called Designing Your Life. We've been doing this for several months now, been getting great response, and totally love Tony sharing his best practices from his 60+ book. He's known as a results strategist, which several of you have come to know. And today's yet another exciting topic called high leverage activities. So Tony, thanks so much.
You bet. Guys, of all the books that I've written, I might have mentioned this before, the number one item of anything I've ever published, all the courses, all the books, is what we're talking about today, high leverage activities. And what we find is that organizations and individuals by themselves absolutely have an opportunity to prioritize better. I was talking to my coach earlier today. I did a coaching call and I was asking him specifics about, what really helps someone to be the best they can be. And one of his top 3 things he was communicating to me is less low leverage activities. So being able to do things that really do matters. So as we go through our experience today, be thinking about both what you can do and what team members can do that are on your team. So high leverage activities. Here we are, February 16th. You guys can see it. HLAs. Last week we did, or 2 weeks ago, we did the 5 love languages. HLAs is our focus today. And in fact, when we put this out, it became so popular that we ended up writing a couple more books. The book originally came out, the concept came out in Strategic Acceleration, then later came out in a book called Results Faster. And then we actually wrote a very specific book called Leverage on the concept itself, and we'll bring that to life. So we want to share the concept of HLAs and discuss ways to eliminate distractions. Hey, Rick, everybody's after that. How do you really not do things you shouldn't be doing and do the things you should be doing? And how do you do that for your team or guide your team? So we want to define it. We want to minimize distractions and then share best practices. And I think awareness. Everybody's heard of the topic. Let's bring it to life. Here's the first big question. Do you have real clarity on the vision and goals for your company and for you personally as a contributor to that vision? I like to ask this question as kind of a self-discovery question. Maybe anew, if you might zone in on this one for a minute. When you think about the next 8 or 10 months of the year, where are you at on clarity on what you want your organization to do and what are you doing personally to support it?
When I was brought on to the company I'm working for now, it was really just to do exactly this. The company was executing in a follow your nose fashion, and what I was asked to do was create this clarity and set up the goals for the group. So that was job number 1, and we've continued to refine that. So I feel, seeing that I was tasked with doing it, I feel that we've done a pretty good job of it.
1 to 10, where are you at?
Oh, it's a continuation. So we've never called it done. It's a document in progress. So I say 7, 8, 7.
Yeah, I like what you said there. I think life goes so fast today, and I think everybody agree. We're constantly refining and adjusting. Carl, where's your head at on this one? You want to give a comment? Carl, you still on with us?
Sorry, I got it. So please repeat. I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now. You were zoning out a little bit. Now you're back.
I said, I'm sorry. I had got a text from my COO, so I had gotten a little distracted. But what am I trying to do? My company is filled with tons of potential. It's been run as a family business for quite a while, and they just sort of grew by word of mouth, and they brought me in to sort of help them take it to the next level, which I'm working on. And as a matter of fact, we had a call this morning that was because I think this company could do great things, and I'm trying to figure out how best to get involved. I have a great relationship with the leadership, the owners, but at the same time, it's their company. So I'm trying to figure out how to help them be effective in the U.S. because they're both based out of So I guess, I don't know if I answered your question, so just explain where I'm, where my head's at.
Yep, I'm with you. Clarity is a big deal, and I put that out there as a potential takeaway for everybody. If you're not as clear as you should be, you'll hear me repeat that over and over and over. I just believe that there's a pulling power. If you have clarity right there on the target, you can visualize that, then you're able to really pull things in. And if I hit this one right here.
No.
Once you have clarity, you can move forward. Focusing on the right things really does matter. We're talking about today getting rid of distractions. That's a big deal. So defining an HLA, what percentage of the time do you spend or do you invest in low leverage activities per week? Everybody write that number down. If you would, think about that number and let's talk about it. Percentage of time that you spend in low leverage. Actually, you know what? Let's tweak the question a little bit. I'd like to tweak the question to say, how many hours do you spend in a week in low leverage activities? Things that don't really matter a whole lot. And everybody just kind of give a number, or 2 or 3, 4 people give a number. And then Randy, if you could give a comment. Anu, what's your number?
It is 30%, say.
Okay. Rick?
I'd say 25%, roughly, probably 18 to 20 hours a week.
Who else? Who else is on with it? Joe, are you on still?
Yeah, I think my answer is the same. My only comment to that is my answer to the question on the previous slide drives the time spent in low leverage activities. So like one of my biggest challenges is not knowing the strategic direction or having clarity around it. So I find myself doing things that aren't nearly as leveraged as they could be or they should be.
Yep. Everybody fights it, right? Clarity is a big deal, and then life moves fast is a big deal, and pushing yourself every day to say no. So I want to give you some specific things we touched on before. I want to get really deep into it on things you can do. Around the world, when I ask this question, the number one answer we get is 20 hours a week. Mm-hmm. Remember my view on time, there's 168 hours in a week. You should sleep. Everybody agree you should sleep? Everybody shake your head. Yes, we should sleep. Everybody with me? Yep, thank you, Tucker. We should sleep. So we put 6 hours for sleep, and we got 12 hours for maintenance. Everybody agrees we should take a shower, and so we got that 100 hours. How we invest that 100 hours matters. Generally speaking, people invest about 50 hours a week in their personal lives, 50 hours in their professional life, and how well you do that determines the results you're going to get in life. Pretty simple deal. You can see it over and over and over. A great one to take a picture of. Randy, any comments that you have on this as far as really helping people get less low leverage activities, more HLAs, more high leverage activity with the things that you're doing for you and your team?
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows obvious things, right? The trick is, you know, how do you say no? And if you can't say no, how do you make sure you do, you know, calls if people are reaching out for help, you know, kind of how do you do them in a, you know, small window of time as opposed to a, you know, longer window of time? Easier said than done.
No doubt. This is one of the most powerful slides I think I've ever made, because so many people don't have this frozen in their mind. We've got 100 hours. That 100 hours, how we invest it, and those of us that manage other people, how we help them manage the, at least the professional side of their life, really does make a big difference. We got to be good. Hey, Bill, how you doing? One concept that I've introduced over time is a concept one of my clients gave me called an elegant solution. He didn't invent it. He came around with that concept through the military. I'd like to bring it to life for you. It's a group of tasks to really maximize efficiency. So we believe that if you're so clear on what you want to accomplish, you can do one activity and you can often accomplish more than one goal. So sometimes you can be giving some type of sales presentation and invite someone to listen in, and you can be training that person at the same time you're actually giving a pitch. Solution, we're doing 2 things at once. Constantly look for ways that we can use our time and accomplish multiple things. Who does that well? Anybody have an example how you do that?
I just was thinking that with, you know, Zooming these days, that's a great opportunity for people to kind of listen in, whether it's kind of people getting trained up, people maybe that are not part of sales. So if you want to have, you know, marketing have more of a clue to what's going on kind of with the field and with customers, or even you might have partners that want to listen in. So there's, I think, several great opportunities on that.
No doubt. And with Zoom today, you have a different scenario than when you're making a sales presentation one-on-one, and being able to push yourself out there and say, hey, new world, we've been here for a year now. We're doing all kinds of presentations today, online, different than in person. What are all the opportunities to have the elegant solution? Recording it, rewatch it, all those things that we can do to be more efficient with our time. And again, I mentioned that I was working with my coach this morning, and I was really pushing him to go and push back on me. What am I doing that's a low leverage activity? What's a high leverage activity? And then how do I help others be more effective? So one takeaway for today is to own the concept of an elegant solution. And just again, to net that out, it's doing one activity and accomplishing multiple objectives because you planned out more clearly what you want to accomplish. Thanks. One of the things I did here, guys, is I took the word spend, and I'd like to have this as a potential takeaway. A lot of people use the word spend your time, and I'd like to propose you change that thinking in your mind to how do you invest your time. Spending it's when you don't care about it so much. Investing it gives you kind of an association that time. Anybody interchange those words, or do you use more spend my time versus invest the time? Any comments? William, what do you think about that idea? You're on mute, buddy. Yep.
Yeah, I put myself on mute. No, I mean, it's funny. I always say, because I'm in the advertising business, so I always, everyone always wants to know what the cost is. So I always say the word investment anyway. But no, that's a great way to put it. I mean, it is an investment, especially on the high leverage folks. In your activities and maybe, digging into those activities. So yeah, I mean, it's a great word. It's one I've used a lot, you know what I mean? Areas of growth and investment. So I never say, I never say the negative. I always try to say the positive there.
Yeah, words matter, and a lot of people don't catch that. I was doing a hike down the Grand Canyon about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. And I was having a discussion into the canyon with, and we were talking about how your self-talk and the words you use really do matter. So I believe in understanding HLAs. That's a good one. I think spending and investing is a good one. What percentage of the time do you invest in high leverage activities? What percentage of the time do you spend in low leverage activities? We talked about it. Some of you said maybe it's 75-25. Can we get that to 90-10? I'm not sure if it's reasonable to think we could get to 100%. I just think that the more we push it up, the more effective we're going to be. And then we're able to take distractions off our plate. The story that I give oftentimes is a story about having lunch. Someone calls me up, William, says, hey, Tony, can I have lunch with you? And I say, is having lunch with William a good thing or not? Is that part of my HLAs? And then instead of saying yes or no, I say, William, what's on your mind? Well, I just like to have a little visit, even if we just did a lunch. Talk a little bit on Zoom, then you could introduce me to Randy, because you and Randy are friends. And I'm like, hey, Randy and I are friends. Why don't I just email connect you and we'll skip the lunch? And you say, great, I didn't have time for lunch anyway. I just want to meet Randy. And so sometimes we say yes to things that are really a distraction. And if we get down to it and ask a couple more questions, then we can knock some low leverage activities kind of off our plate. And I just believe that those people are the most high powered in sales. Matter of fact, high powered period, are really looking for ways to cut low leverage activities. Randy, thoughts?
Yeah, totally. Easier said than done, but if you can free up time, and how many times do you night doing extra work things and sacrificing from your family, whatever else, and you look back during the day and say, geez, why did I do this or why did I do that? And how many years and days have we seen that play out?
Yeah, here's a side one here that fits. When you start a meeting, Randy and I were talking about yesterday, when you start a meeting, do you set it up to say, hey, I've got about 15 minutes to go over what I think we can handle in 15 to reach our objectives. And so the other person says yes or no, and you confirm that it's 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 or 25 or whatever the number is. How many of you do that where you kind of set the pace at the beginning? Thumbs up if you do that. Any comments on that? How you kind of set your meeting up? If you don't, what ends up happening is you can end up having a longer phone call than you need to, you know?
Yeah, you should always value your time by setting up an agenda before you get there, right? Send it out a few days before you get there so everybody's on the same page for clarity. And if you don't have that agenda, you know, maybe somebody in that circle says, hey, I don't want to talk about that, but add these or remove that, right?
Yeah. So many meetings today don't have an agenda. And even if it's just 3 bullets, guys, let's cover these 3 things. 1, this, 2, this, and then we'll talk about actions. The more likely we can set a meeting up when we're online or on a call, the more likely we're going to be investing that time in a more effective way. Anybody else comments on how you set up meetings?
Part of what I've found really to be successful, Alan Torres here,
Who's
is
this talking? Who's this talking?
Hey, Alan.
right here, is stating the purpose of the meeting first, then figuring out how much time you have.
Yeah, I believe
If you
very
don't have an
strongly
agenda,
that
that's the
the
second
purpose.
best thing.
Yep, the purpose trumps the agenda. I think the purpose should be first, and then the agenda is designed to reach the purpose or the objectives. And a lot of people aren't clear on that. They go right to the agenda and they don't get really clear on what the objective or the purpose is. Good point, whoever said that. Really, really, really get clear. What do we want to accomplish here, guys? And then here's one for you. If you're really setting up a good purpose or a set of purpose statements or really objectives, a lot of people don't put words at the beginning. Are you going to convey something, teach something, share something, give something, discuss something, brainstorm something? So at the end of your meeting, you can go, did I brainstorm it? Did I teach it? Did I share it? And so if you don't have good, clear action words at the beginning of your objectives, that would be something I would encourage you to do to be more effective with your time, including, again, those people that might work for you or work around you. And if you're participating in a meeting, you know, what do we want to accomplish? What's the purpose of the meeting? And is there a good, clear action word or set of action words? Okay, so high leverage activity is an item you should be doing most of the time in order to accomplish your vision or your priorities. Again, it's the opposite of a low leverage activity. It's the things that matter most. Here's some sample high leverage activities: coaching and nourishing a team member. If you're a leader of your organization, if you own it, if you are in a position of any kind of management, you want to be thinking about, are you nourishing your people over the phone? Impacting those you serve, of course, that's a big deal. Planning your day, we all know that's an important thing. Randy, you talked about yesterday, kind of doing it the night before. Any comments you want to give on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still old school. So night before, especially now with LinkedIn, go through who am I going to be meeting with. I had a sales rep today for a client, ends up he was at Notre Dame. He was, don't hold that against him too much, Bill and Joe, but and then kind of other companies that he was at where we overlap, people you have in common, and whether it's, you know, kind of individual contributor level on up to a, you know, senior executive, great way to break bread. And especially if it's a stranger, I always start off with saying, hey, you don't know me from a hole in the wall. I may have been highly recommended, but, you know, let me tell you, of the people we have in common, here's, you know, 10 plus people that I know well. And that usually helps to, you know, break the ice right away.
On planning your day, just give me an average. How many meetings or calls do you have set on average in a day? Do you have 5, 6, 10, 20? How many do you have, Joe?
Varies, I'd say anywhere between 3 and 7 or 8, depending on the customer and the day of the week.
How about you, William?
I would say 2 to 3 per day. A lot of my goals are, I mean, for new business, you know, prospects or new business clients, but from there, it's probably 3 to 5 with existing clients.
How about you, Rick?
5 to 10.
Carl, how about you?
About 5 to 10 as well.
All right, so we all have quite a few, right? 3 to 10. And so the question are we saying is, are we really prepared as much as we could for maximizing that experience the next day? And as a high leverage activity, preparing for meetings the next day obviously is there. Some of us do it last minute. Some of us do it the day before. If you do it, just kind of sink in, and oftentimes you're a lot better. Samples of low leverage activities. We talked about already, a meeting that goes on too long, a meeting that's 30 minutes that could be done in 15, a meeting that's an hour that could be done in 25. Doing activities that you could be delegating to subordinates or someone else. You know, if you're not delegating things out, I believe that you're orchestrating all the time as a salesperson, And part of that orchestration is to delegate things out for people to help. That could be research. Randy, we talked about yesterday a little bit about like the combination of like an SC and kind of some of the team members that are preparing and gathering information. Can you share what we talked about yesterday that was on your mind, everybody?
I'm sure it was really good. Tucker, do you remember?
Yeah, no, we were just talking about working together as a team, like not necessarily an activity that your subordinate could be doing, but just making sure you're each doing your own part, whether it be, you know, an SCR, kicking off a discovery call with a recap from your last call, or, you know, I think the common one when it comes to an activity and your subordinates is just sort of, you know, prospecting, you know, making sure you're generating new business and things like that. So just making sure, you know, you're aligned with who's in charge of what throughout the sales process and making sure everyone has a handle on, you know, their piece or their stage that they're in charge of.
Good job, Tucker. Like really, we're all orchestrating it, right? Right.
Yeah, I like the word orchestration.
Organization. How many times do you get upset because you can't find something on your computer? You didn't organize it. You can't find it on your phone. You can't find it in your files. You can't find it in your area, your desk, your backpack. Being able to have the system set up where you organize things so you can get to it. If not, you end up burning 3 minutes finding something versus finding it in 20 seconds. And we all know, well, that's a small number, but you do that 4 times, and then you say 4 times 2 minutes, that's 8 minutes. You do that 5 days a week, and now you got 40 minutes. You run that time across the year, and you're talking about 3 days. And so things really add up. A lot of people, when they're thinking about time effectiveness and HLAs, they aren't counting minutes. And I think a takeaway from today is count minutes. You add all the minutes up, and it ends up being days over a year period. Any comments on that? Just a thinking, right? It's a level of thinking. Do you really preserve or invest every minute? Does every minute count? And when you think about minutes, one of the other things I like to point out is minutes are not just how you can invest them other ways. It's your energy. Like if you have minutes that are like dragging you down, guess what? You're not at peak performance. And so I encourage you to be thinking about preserving and putting your high leverage activities around the things that matter the most. What about distractions? Here's one for you. Michigan State study determined what? Like your distractions cause you to have more errors. So you want to be thinking about all the time, how do you get distracted? Like clutter, like it's like laying around. Like, are you getting it off your desk? Getting it off your desk area? Are you filing it? And I just am such a big component of the environment, being clean and organized. Anybody want to comment on that? Anybody feel as passionate as I do on that?
I think the sign of the times right now, I mean, distractions are almost part of the daily routine, unfortunately. You know, it's challenging right now to avoid distractions. I have whole family in the house working from home mostly. It's really tough, and it's tough on them as well when they're in school. So it's everybody's got to work together, but distractions have never been higher.
Agree. And you think about it, they come at you in text, they come in phone calls, they come in emails, they come in a lot of different ways.
And notifications on the phone, I've actually shut them off. So I can't, so I got at least to control those distractions a little bit.
Yep. Less distractions.
For me, this is Kristen, not being in the office, I actually have more time, it seems, with less distractions, because a lot of people come into my office and chat about something or look for something. Have kids here, right? Anyway, the kids, yeah, are here a lot. But
is that your son?
Yeah, Mason, come here. Mason. He says no. He's 5.
Nope.
But anyway, yeah, I found more distractions in the office than with this COVID situation.
Yep, managing is powerful. How about this one? Does this activity contribute to my goals?
Mm-hmm.
If no, then how do I like push it off? So the takeaway I'd like to give you on this slide is a no doesn't mean totally no to somebody. A no can be no to what they ask for, but you can actually give someone what they want and not necessarily say yes to what they're requesting. Oftentimes people ask me to show up and give a message somewhere at a meeting. And if I can't make it, I say no to the request, but I might send them copies of my books that they can hand out. So I give them the content of the message they wanted, but I didn't give them my time. And so I'm constantly looking for, how do I really say yes to the things that matter the most? And in fact, I'm oftentimes asking my team should we do this? Should we not? And then we say yes or no accordingly. That can be cascaded out, or it can be reduced in time. Someone requests again for an hour, I might give them 15 minutes. You know, does anybody do that? And not to be rude, I mean, you're very polite about it. And part of that may be just simply saying, hey, my schedule is really tight, or I want to stay focused, or if you don't mind, I'd like to really keep that 15 minute, that call to 15 minutes, and you set it up. And oftentimes you'll end up doing a meeting in 15 minutes that could have dragged on to be 30 minutes or 45 by just a setup. I mean, like, do you really own minutes? And do you really own low leverage activities versus high leverage activities?
Tony, it's interesting about talking
people that are most productive own minutes.
Tony, you talk about being strategic in your conversations. When I was at Hewlett Packard and I had a sales team, the team was large enough and geographically diverse enough that I kept people to task, and I was very, very deliberate about making sure that everyone was talking against the goals. And what I found after doing this for a few months was that we weren't having enough free flow conversation. So what I started to do was scheduling a call for the team where we could have some of that free flow conversation where it wasn't necessarily attached to a particular execution item for the day, but instead a little bit more of a free flow of being able to exchange ideas. So that's the only thing I found I was making a mistake with when I tried to implement this.
You know, Anu, on that note, you know, one of the things that we do now is we are putting things up on the board, and we'll write and brainstorm together. And if you can like move your computer, you're like brainstorming things, that can be a high leverage activity where people really see what's on your mind. And sometimes though, you can actually reduce time by people seeing what's on your mind by you drawing it out. You know, if you don't have a flip chart around your at home office, that's something to consider, where you can actually move it right over. I have them everywhere. I have them in my gym. I have them everywhere. I just think flip charts are so powerful, and I invite people to see what's behind me. Today, I happen to be in my condo just on the amenity floor because we have an outage on our internet at the results center, and so I don't have one around me, or I'd show you. I've got them all around. Anybody else have those around? We have boards for free flowing, like Anu said. There's one. Anybody else?
I painted a wall with the whiteboard paint, so I could use that.
Nice.
I consulted to Alan Torres here. I consulted to Samsung, and it's a Korean company. And I found there was a cultural difference that if you can't put it onto a board and transfer that to a flow chart, they don't get it. It was just amazing.
Oh.
So they take it to a whole different extreme, and it's pretty useful. But it's difficult for us as Americans, I think, to stick to that as much.
Yeah, Alan, one of the things else that we do, and I'm sure others do it as well, is when we're flip charting, we'll take pictures and we'll save it. We'll save it in the notes, or we'll do it as part of the follow-up. And you know, sometimes you scribble and you can't really read it, or you can't really reference it, so you got to be careful there. But man, flip chart's a good thing. So final thing on this slide here, discuss saying no strategically. Again, my takeaway here is, in your mind, can you give someone what they want and still say no? You know, a lot of people don't own that. They go, man, I don't want to say no to that person. So you end up burning an extra 20 minutes, and you do that 3 times a day. And now there's 5 hours in a week. There's always, there will always be some tasks that you won't want to do or see the value of doing. Try to work it out with your colleagues and peers, supervisor. You know, I'm constantly saying, am I the right person to be doing something? This is a little book on the bottom left that we're going to be talking about in a few weeks called We've Got to Start a Meeting and Emailing Like This. One big thing that we found a lot of organizations don't do is they don't train on email. And we believe that the 2 biggest ways that you communicate today, obviously, are meetings by Zoom and emailing. And a lot of people have never done training on it. So I look forward to teaching some ideas on emailing. When I wrote my first book on emails, it was about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer than that, called Too Many Emails. And I'm sure everybody can relate to that title. We got a lot of grins when people would hear me talking about that title. We ended up licensing that to their, at that time, 2 million people, because people get too many emails, and that's a big deal, I think, on distractions. What else is a distraction? Unnecessary paperwork, too long of telephone calls, emails, granting meeting times longer than necessary. What we found is a lot of companies and a lot of people have habits of granting time slots of 30 and 60 minutes. And one thing to consider doing is granting time slots at 25 and at 50. So you have transition time, bathroom time, check and email time. Anybody make a comment on that? Do you guys do 30 and 60 minutes, or do you do 25 and 50?
I have people that when you say I need an hour to just to hammer this out, they get scared. You ask for 45 or 50 minutes, and all of a sudden, yeah, sure, I can find that kind of time.
Yep. Trimming
It's
time
like,
down
it's
is a
like
good
having
thing.
a dollar sign versus 99 cents, just like that. It's a psychological thing.
Rick, yeah, agree, Alan. Rick, any comments?
Yeah, I'm trying to buy back my time, so I started doing 15-minute increments. And if I need more time, I have that extra 15 minutes to flow into.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Joe, any comments? 25 and 50 minutes? Do you do that?
I try to do 30. I'm getting much better at questioning when someone requests an hour. And usually the answer is that it's just by default. So.
Trim. Okay, let's keep going. Eliminating distraction. Making daily lists. If you take a look at your list, daily is something that's coming at you, going to support you getting stuff off your list. If it's not, are you going to say yes or no? Procrastination is a big deal. Dealing with that. Preparing the night before, as Randy said, is a big one. Cleaning off your computer, your desktop. Time. Taking care of your health is a big deal, I think, so that you're at peak performance. If not, what happens? You get sick or ill, and then it becomes a distraction to you accomplishing what you want. So those are some thoughts. Here we go, a little funny. Studies say people are losing their ability to focus because of everything digital. Say what? Hold on. What are you saying? I don't know. Probably not important. And what are people doing? They're on their phones all the time. Everybody can smile at that. Here's the good news. Phones are important. Phones are a great tool. So it's not like, oh, get rid of phones. No, phones are incredible. Maybe one of the best tools ever, right, to be able to be productive, just being able to manage it. Comments on that? All right, defining your HOAs. Let's pull your phones out, guys, if everybody's got your phone. If you haven't done this before, and if you've done it before, go to the area where you've done it. So please pull your phone out. Find a place on your phone where you can write down high leverage activities. In your high underneath that, where you'll be able to do is have it in a notes area or have it in an area in your task where you go to it. And I'd like to suggest you have two subpoints. One subpoint is your professional HLAs, and the other subpoint is your personal HLAs. And I believe in 5 to 7 HLAs is a great number. My professional HLAs, I know them by my heart, inside and out. Number 1 is attracting strong qualified business. Number 2 is delivering great value to my clients. Constantly think about that. Number 3 is I need to be constantly clarifying for our organization what's the priorities. Number 3, I need to be gaining wisdom because I'm in the wisdom business. And the last one, excuse me, not number 4, number 5 would be nourishing my Rolodex. I have a lot of friends. I got to be pouring into my friends. So those are 5 things. So I'm constantly looking at where am I at, where am I going, and between where I'm at and where I'm going is my HLAs. So I'm thinking all I'm doing to put me to be more effective. So I'd ask you right now to type in 5 to 7 things that are kind of like your HLAs. These are the main things. What are the things you should be doing? Should you be nourishing people? Should you be gathering reading research? Should you be looking at trends? Should you be looking at your prospects? Should you be looking at your accounts? Should you be nourishing other people? Should you be looking at other people's benchmarking, things that maybe your competitors are doing? That could be a high leverage activity. Should you be talking to team members, brainstorming with team members, huddling with team members? Everybody has their own set of circumstances and their own area of responsibility. What's the things you should be doing most of the time? And I'm going to ask you, if you would, to type up 5 to 7 of them. And 5 to 7 of them, if you really want to get good and take this to the highest level, I'd ask you to put down the number of hours on average each week you should be activity. 3 hours here, 6 hours here, 5 hours there. That really pushes you to make sure that this exercise is really deep. What should you really be doing? And then some people say, yeah, I got it in my head. Nope. There's something different about really typing it up or writing it down. What's the main things you should be doing? Right, Alan? It's powerful, right? If you do it. And then let's just have a few volunteers as you're continuing to type. And if you want, going down to the personal side of things, should you be investing time with your kids? Probably so. Should you be doing health-related items like working out, studying what you eat? Probably so. If you're married, should you be investing time with your spouse? Probably so. Should you invest time with your friends socially? Probably so. Should you be doing personal development so you're a better person? Probably so. You know, what are the things that are the main things on your personal side and your professional side? Remember, we got 100 hours. Invest at 50 hours professionally really lets us bring the bridge together and connect all the dots. So on the professional side, what's some things you have typed up or written down on the professional side? Anybody share?
Yeah, I can share. I would say because of the company that the state that we're in, we're just getting kind of started. So obviously prospecting, finding new prospects, getting our brand out there. And
how many hours should you be prospecting a week?
A lot. 60%.
2 hours a day, 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 4?
Hopefully more. Yeah, at this point more. Yeah.
Okay. So if it's 4 hours a day, then that's 20 hours a week. So you'd put 20 next to that. Excellent. Okay. What's another one on your list?
Branding and getting that out in the market. So understanding what competitors are doing and just staying educated in the marketing space.
Yeah, a lot of people, competitors, trends, industry, technology, what's changing, what's not, what's the same, what do people want, right? Mm-hmm. Study your market, study your competition. Absolutely a high leverage activity. A lot of people don't, they get lazy. What's another one?
Client retention, making sure they're happy and
Great.
Delivering as much as possible and brainstorming new ideas of what we can offer in terms of servicing them as best we can.
Yeah, who am I speaking with?
Kristen Carey.
Kristen, what about this one? Should this be a high leverage activity where you drop something of value to your prospects or clients?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and do you think a lot of people have that intentionality or the intentionality they should or could? Like, am I really giving something of value? Maybe I'm showing them a website. Maybe I'm showing them a video they could use. Maybe I'm showing them a white paper, a trend, a research document. Like constantly be driven. Like if you don't write it down, then it only happens occasionally. And I would propose that would apply to many of us. Anybody else? Joe, what's on your list? Give us one or two.
So interesting segue. So the two that I try to think of the most are, am I a student of my clients' problems? And then am I an opportunity maker for my customers?
Love it.
That drives most of my day. And then for me specifically, am I creating feedback on myself? So small company, very flat. We don't do performance reviews. So am I trying to find feedback in ways where I need to be creative to make sure I'm doing things the way we should be?
Joe, that's a beautiful aha for me. I'm going to own that one. Thank you. That's the best thing I got today so far, is really studying and being a student, if you will, of your clients' problems. Really, so you can solve their problems. Great way of setting it up word-wise. That's a great HLA, right? I love it. Randy, what's on your mind?
Well, just for you, I'm going to say finishing up our book, which sounded like a good idea this summer, and I'm sure once it's done, it'll be a good idea. Right now, it doesn't sound like such a great idea. Improving engagement with the sales community, driving more memberships, doing our daily priorities, and some of the board.
So again, my suggestions 5 to 7 on both sides. The more you're clear on that, the more you'll say no to the things that don't matter. A lot of people don't write them down. If you have people working for you, I propose that. Figure out what the high leverage activities are for them, the ones for you, and then what are you doing? You are aligned, if you will, on how someone invests their time.
Try.
Tucker, any thoughts?
You're muted.
Yeah, I mean, I really, one of my professional ones was stay educated. So, in line with what Kristen and Joe were saying, just being up to date with what's going on, whether it be in the space that your solution's in, whether it be the problems that your clients are facing. Really encouraging just to hear that across the board from different members here. And I think for me with sales community under professional HLA, marketing, research, and branding, just constantly, getting the word out there, making sure we're looking at the right spaces, and really continuing to build the brand here.
Excellent, Tucker. Thanks.
Good
Okay,
ones.
this is a document. If you want to take a picture of it, we call it the Accelerator Matrix. If you guys want, we can put it up on the on our toolbox inside sales community. It's real simple. What are the focus areas or the HLAs I need to be working on? What are the actions that make up those activities? And then what are the roadblocks I need to bust? We gave an example here. So for example, this would almost apply to everybody. An HLA could be research and prepare for all important sales calls and meetings. And some of the actions could be review a prospect's LinkedIn, study their website, prepare the agenda. So those would be actions that would be part of the HLA. And then one of the roadblocks that a lot of people don't do is they don't schedule time to be able to really prepare like they could or should. And so I encourage you to really list out, like you've done on your phone, in this template, and then what are the actions. And it's an exercise that's like less than 10 minutes, so it's not like a big heavy duty burden. And so what we propose is the more clear you get, the more effective you are at saying no to the things that don't matter. Any comments on this tool?
Very powerful tool.
Once. What's that, Alan?
That's very powerful to say prepare and research. And then I'll give you an example. On Friday, I consult to two different organizations. One is Samsung, another one is a software technology company. And somebody called me and said, I'm looking to work at this company. What do you think of it? And it's in stealth mode. And I knew nothing about the company. I'm interviewing next week as their VP of Business Development. I went in, I researched it, I looked at all the LinkedIn analysis. I started studying the papers that people had written. And within 12 hours, I had a phone call to Singapore and found out that their key advisor is an old friend of mine. Wow. And he already set up my recommendations and everything else, and did the e-intro over the weekend. And they're doing workshops this week, but they'll make time for me next week. So researching, and I'm talking, deep researching sometimes is extremely valuable to cut through all of the roadblocks and
no doubt.
Connect the dots.
Yeah, just as an aside, you'll see on the advisory board sales community, Casey Choi, and they're listed alphabetical by first name. He runs their Samsung's, I think it's like 5G B2B business or something like that. And we did a Tech Sales Insights podcast that's pre-recorded back like 2-3 weeks ago with him. So you may want to listen to that for homework. And if he looks like he's somebody in the loop, I know him really well. You want any intro for due diligence or anything?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, bringing it to wrap, take a moment to consider your HLAs. Are your activities every day fitting into the buckets of your HLAs? We all do to-do list. Look at your to-do list of the things. We can produce better results often by investing our time. Remember, we got to manage our energy, not just our time. So looking at the takeaways, here's the summary highlight document. We talked about clear understanding of our goals, working smartly with our HLAs, learning to distinguish what's an LLA or a distraction and getting rid of it, saying no more effectively, keeping our space organized, eliminating distractions, keeping your computer and or your email very organized where you can get to things, move things around, communicating your work times, and then maintaining your daily, weekly, and monthly list in alignment with your HLAs. So let's just have a few people share as we move into closure here. What's your takeaway? What should you be doing that you're not doing? What should you double down on? What's your one thing? What's your one thing from today? What hit you and said, hey, I need to do more of that? Who's ready?
For me guys, I'll start there's a great refresher. You know, you think you're doing so many things right, and then you realize you've gotten away from some of the good habits you had in the past, and you need to get back to them and get a little bit more organized.
Yep. Organization, prioritization is what this whole message is about. Joe, what's your one thing today?
For me, it's a reminder to keep my mind where my feet are. Focus.
Thanks. Yep. Alan, what's your one thing today?
Keeping your computer organized and email organized. I always do it, and I'm obsessive about it, but it gets away from you really quick if you're not really aggressive with it.
Yep. Taking 20 seconds now can save you 2 minutes later. You know, that's what I'm always saying to myself. And if you don't, then it catches you. And it's just a matter of discipline now. It's delayed gratification. Thanks, Alan. Who else is on the line? Carl, are you still on with us?
Yep, I commented already. Happy to comment again if you'd like.
I would, man. Make it good.
Well, I think the daily and weekly lists, the daily, weekly HLAs, and writing those down either the night before or on a Sunday are things I'm going to start doing more so.
William, you're up. What's your one thing?
Yeah, mine is increasing the percentage of HLAs versus the LLAs. So yes, I mean, we all get bogged down. I'm the same way. You know, yeah, I got to decrease the LLAs, increase the HLAs on a daily basis, hourly basis, and as opposed to percentage, just you make it an hour and reach that goal, set that goal. I often find that the busier you are, the more organized you have to be. So, you know, in this case, if you actually schedule HLA, I think that's probably what I'm going to have to do. Just put it in my book to make sure that it reminds me every day that I'm doing an extra hour or 2 hours a day on HLA experience. So that's what
I would say, Randy, most of the people that are on the line or watching this recording, most people are pretty efficient. Most people really have a lot of this down. What's an extra 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a week mean to all of this? You spread it across a year, and we're talking extra days, right? Extra days. You know, just the little nuances of prioritization. Tucker, what's on your mind?
Distinguish LLAs. You know, just as important as identifying your HLAs, keep a list right next to it of your LLAs and make sure you're really staying on track and staying focused.
Excellent. Okay, Randy, you want to bring us into a wrap, or anybody else? You got something else? Anybody?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for me is personal development, and bringing through that personal development, bringing the high value technology to my clients that they may be unaware of, right? It's my responsibility to provide them something before they know about it. So when they need it, it's at their fingertips.
That's an HLA for you.
There you go. Being the nice guy that you are. So I put a comment in the chat. These are all great comments. Thanks. We'd love to get any feedback or any of your testimonials in the chat. So as we're wrapping up here, any kind of 1 or 2 liners about why it was good or great would be fantastic. And yeah, as always, Tony, really appreciate it. And on the one hand, some is common sense, but on the other hand is you can never hear this enough. And thanks, you took a valuable just about 50 minutes out of your day, but hopefully it'll save you many hours in the coming year. Tony, do we have another slide of the upcoming sessions?
I do. Let me pop it up there. So when you look at where we're going, here's where we're going. Go ahead.
Yep. So you can see continuing every 2 weeks. Next week, working as a high-performing team. Game is always changing. Email effectiveness, and you can read on. And like with all these, as many times as I've been through it, I still get great feedback out of it and great ideas. So hopefully you do as well. For those that missed it and want extra brownie points, February 2nd, we did a great session on the 5 love languages, including a self-assessment. So easy way to get brownie points with your significant other, and certainly a really valuable topic around your key relationship, or some maybe relationships plural. But anyway, anything else? Anybody?
Yeah, let me just, again, on number 3, high-performing teams. I've been deploying that inside organizations for over 20 years, and I want to share the distinctions on March 2nd there. The game is always changing. That's a brand new book I've been working on with a former CEO of a $20 billion company. He and I teamed up to really deal with change, and so that's a pretty cool one. Email effectiveness, like so many people have never really dissected their email. and there'll be things there that you want to cascade inside your organization to be able to be more efficient with your time. I've got some great things I've studied, things that I've written about myself. Time management, you know, again, unpacking that 168. Leadership effectiveness, I've got a great book that I want to bring to life there on 25 things you can do to be a better leader. So each one of those topics are topics that I've been heavily involved in, and sometimes as much as 25 years. So look forward to those coming up.
Great. All right. Well, as always, Tony, thank you very much. You're awesome. You're the best. And for everybody for participating, thank you. And I think a good chunk of you are members. For those that aren't, feel free to go to salescommunity.com. We have a free 30-day trial, and everybody seems to also be doing a great job getting the word out. So definitely appreciate that as well. And continue a lot of great content coming on, great engagement every week. Feel free to go on, ask a question, answer some other questions, network. And as always, anything I could do, please don't hesitate to let me know.